right, so being comfortable lying on the floor, and if you would please bend your knees up so that your feet are in what I call a standing position, and play around a little bit with the position of your feet. Make sure that they're not too close or too far from your buttocks. They probably shouldn't be right next to each other together, so, kind of a hip width apart. And you kind of want to play with the idea of how balanced are your knees over your feet. Are your knees wanting to fall in, or do they want to fall out? And can you find a position of your feet where they really feel balanced over your feet, so there's not a lot of effort? And as you're lying there, just notice the curve in your low back. And for some of us, our low back curves quite a bit away from the floor. And for others, there's quite a bit of contact of the low back to the floor. In this series of lessons we're really going to explore the whole spine. So gently press both your feet into the floor and relax. Just a few times. Press and release. And begin to feel, as you press your feet into the floor, what influence does that have into your pelvis and your spine? You may feel something. You may feel nothing. And either way, the invitation is to be curious about that. What does pressing my feet into the floor have to do with my spine? And then I want you to grow that movement so you're intentionally using the pressure of your feet to roll your pelvis back and to bring your spine gently towards the floor. Now, in traditional physical therapy, you might start thinking this is a pelvic tilt. Yeah? But the difference between what we're doing here and a pelvic tilt is, in a pelvic tilt, we're instructing you to tighten your abdominal muscles to roll your pelvis and flatten your low back. In Feldenkrais, I want you to do the best you can to keep your abdomen soft and let the movement come from your feet. So you press and release your feet, and you feel your pelvis roll and your lumbar spine come towards the floor and away from the floor. You're just feeling that movement. So you begin to get a sense of how the foot bone and the leg bone, through pressure, connects to the pelvis through the hips. And then when it's speaking to the pelvis by letting it roll back, then the pelvis speaks to the spine. So as you do this movement, you can kind of feel those different vertebrae of your low back. The lowest vertebrae, the next one, and the next one. And see if you can take with your imagination that opportunity to imagine that you're feeling one vertebrae at a time as you press through your feet. Maybe very lightly, you feel your pelvis and the lowest vertebrae, and as you press just a tiny bit more, you can feel the connection to the next one, and then the next one. And just listening for yourself, how far up your spine can you feel the movement that's initiated by simply pressing through your feet? And just take a moment and rest. Check in with yourself, listen to your body, make sure you're not doing too much. And of course, if you're new to this, you could think, how could I possibly be doing too much? But these are really exercises of attention. How do we attend to our body, and through a specific kind of attention, how do we help our body feel more connected? So some parts aren't being asked to do more or to strain more or to work more, while other parts maybe are holding in constricted patterns and are less accessible. So we're trying to bring a balance so that everything is working together. Okay, and come back to the position with your knees bent. And come back to this movement of lightly pressing through your feet, letting your pelvis roll and feeling how your lower back comes towards the floor. And you can begin to feel the connection up through the vertebrae in your spine. And as you press and release, begin to bring your attention to your head. Is there any movement at all in your head as you press through your feet, allowing your pelvis and your spine to move? So one might think that as you make this movement, of course, your head is connected to your spine, right? So how do we find our way to the connection of our feet all the way to our heads? So what I want you to do, if you can't really feel that connection up through your neck and head, is a couple times as you press through your feet, let your chin lift away from your chest a little bit. You press through your feet and your pelvis will roll, low back comes towards the floor, and you let your chin lift a little. And as you release with your feet, your chin comes back to its resting position. So that's one possibility, that the chin lifts and lowers with the movement. And then just pause for a moment. And then this time, see what happens when you press through your feet and you let your pelvis and your spine move, and you lower your chin a little towards your chest. So try that a few times. Through the feet pressing, and the chin comes towards the chest, and then you release everything again. And so for some of you, one way is going to feel like a more natural connection and relationship than the other way. The chin either lifts with the pressing of the feet or lowers with the pressing of the feet. So just explore a little bit and find for you what makes the most sense for your body. What seems to allow your brain and your body to feel that full connection from your feet, through your legs, up your spine, into your neck and head? So for how many of you does it feel like letting the chin lift a little bit? Does that resonate for you? Okay. And how many of you feel like lowering the chin a little bit makes more sense? All right. So we're if we had an even number of people, we'd be 50-50 split. So isn't that interesting? So who's right? Who's got it? Who's got it all figured out? And the lovely thing about Feldenkrais is you're right. Right? There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's just the opportunity to explore and begin to get a sense of, for me, this is what my body likes. And then we can take that information into our regular life, right? It might be how you unload the dishwasher or carry your groceries or get dressed, any number of things. There can be what your physical therapist says is right, and of course we like to do that a lot. But there can also be, well, that's a pointer, that's a direction, but I want you to learn how to feel for yourself the little subtle adjustments to really make it right for you in that unique moment. Good. And just let your legs down, let everything rest. And just scan for a minute how your body feels, how your back feels, the arch of your low back away from the floor. Just notice if anything has changed in your experience of yourself. And this all by itself can be a lovely letting go practice at the beginning or the middle or the end of your day. I got an email from a past patient who I've stayed in touch with, and she's been going through chemotherapy, and she ended up with a horrible back spasm. So she sent me an SOS email asking if there was anything I could suggest. And I knew that she had done a lot of Feldenkrais movements in the past. And so I was able to fairly easily through email make the suggestion that she just do this, that she just get her body reconnected from foot to head. And it's such a lovely way to help the low back release and relax and be re-supported by your feet. Because if your attention, if your low back happens to be one of the areas that bothers you, it gets a lot of your attention. And that attention isolates the low back in your brain. Your brain pays more attention to the low back than the whole of you. So just by reconnecting it, that it's being supported by your pelvis, which is supported by your legs, which is supported by your feet, can really change and shift that level of discomfort. So now I want you just to take your time and roll to your side, come to sitting and standing, and just walk around a little bit and see what the influences of this movement might be for you today. Thank you.